given the reception of this movie, some people might think that Fox is just run by a bunch of dipshits. But I respectfully disagree. I think Fox is a super genius company because they set out to make a movie that would make people want to watch the old shitty Fantastic Four movies again. It's success. I walked out of this movie going, man, I want to see that Fantastic Four movie with Jessica Alba and Captain America. You know, the one where they did Doctor Doom better. Wrap your brain around that. Fantastic Four. So Fantastic Four is ironically the fourth attempt at making a Fantastic Four movie. And funny enough, the fourth success at making an abomination in the name of the Fantastic Four. In this movie, Miles Teller plays Reed Richards and the government's trying to crack interdimensional travel. And so for reasons that defy logic, this group gets brought together and they go through the dimension and they come back with superpowers and then here we are. Now there were some things in this movie where I saw where they were going with it and I did like it. At least I liked the concept. The execution has some things to be desired. But I feel like I'm treading on spoiler territory telling you what I kind of liked about the movie. But if you truly do take my word to heart and you do listen to me, it doesn't matter because you're not going to watch this movie because I'm going to tell you not to. But I did like the fact that the government's ultimately funding this thing and then they come back with superpowers, so the government ultimately wants to weaponize these kids. That was kind of interesting because I feel like that's what would happen if this happened. Again, not done in the smoothest way ever, but I did enjoy seeing that. And the cast in this movie, good cast. Miles Teller, Jamie Bell, Michael B. Jordan, Kate Mara, Toby Kebbell as Doom, kind of. Not at all though. And now let's get to everything else. Really nothing in this movie makes sense though. I mean, Human Torch's dad really gets this team together, and it's like he knows why he's getting them together. How it's supposed to be is in the movie, it makes sense that they're together, and then they end up forming the Fantastic Four. But the fact that this guy gets them all together, it defies logic to such a degree where you have to think this guy is like some sort of Marvel god. He knows that they're going to be the Fantastic Four. Because there's no reason to have Michael B. Jordan work on this project. It's just not. You're a really good engineer. I need you to help build this thing. No, you have good engineers. You don't need this kid who really is just kind of a loose cannon. And little known fact, Reed Richards is the smartest man in the Marvel universe. Victor Von Doom is not smarter than him. So when I see Reed Richards write out a formula and Victor Von Doom's like, no, and he erases it and writes out the formula and they're like, oh. I'm like, okay, so Victor is smarter than Reed Richards. So that's gone. And really the editing in this movie, was there editing? The transitions in between scenes and the time lapsing, it just doesn't work at all. And you hear stories about the director came in shit-faced and drunk off his ass. I wasn't there. I can't qualify any of that. But I am saying when you watch this movie, you're like, oh, I can see this movie being directed by someone who is shit-faced every day. Sure. And this movie is long and really boring. Really nothing happens in this movie. Just a bunch of people trying to make something and then they get powers, but they don't really use them. And then it's just, they have powers now and nothing's happening still. That's where I'm going to give credit to the other Fantastic Four movies that came out in 2000 whatever. At least in that one, you can pass it off as a fun comic book adventure. And the crew in there had some form of synergy. They did feel like friends. They felt like a Fantastic Four. These people look like actors who are good actors who are trying to act their way around a shitty script, not having any fun doing it. There's no real fun. Not in this movie. That's one of the tonal changes they were going for. It's like this new fresh take on Fantastic Four, which I'm down for, but in the end, when that new fresh take ends up boring the audience, now I just go for the comic book romp. Instead, everyone's brooding, you know, Ben Grimm, he's like out there killing people for the military. He's like, the thing's kill count's 43. Ben Grimm's like, oh man, I hate my life. He looks at the audience like, and you hate this shit too. Now we're just gonna get to the last act of the movie because this movie wasn't good to begin with, but then the last act of this movie straight up fucks this movie into the dirt. Dr. Doom comes. He's not even Dr. Doom. He's just Doom. He's not even Doom. He's just dumb. Can we call him Dr. Dumb? I'll split the... All right, so Dr. Dumb pops onto the scene and it's oh man. You remember that set photo we got? And we're like, oh my God, is he really gonna look like that? And people like me were like, calm down. He might not look like that in the movie. Just wait for it to be on screen. I'm here to tell you, it looks worse. He just, what the fuck did he look like? He looked like Data's daughter in Star Trek The Next Generation before she got skinned. He was like some weird psychic biomechanical mannequin who would walk by people and people would just die because he's that psychic and powerful. Seriously, he is nothing like that. He's just walking and people are just dying down the hallways. And it's just not what Dr. Doom is. I mean, Dr. Dumb in this movie is every bit as much Dr. Doom as Barakapool was Deadpool in X-Men Origins Wolverine. He's that far off the mark, man. It's just one of those things you look at and you're like, I don't know where you guys were going with that. But I promise you, they did Dr. Doom better in that Fantastic Four movie where I still profess that was a shitty representation of Dr. Doom. And the entire last act of this movie takes place in a wasteland. There are no stakes involved. I mean, there are stakes involved. Earth is kind of in peril from the shit happening in this wasteland, but you don't see any of it really. You don't feel that connection to the gravity of the situation. This is they gotta band together to fight this psychic biomechanical mannequin head Data's daughter without skin bullshit in a barren ass boring wasteland, just kind of like the rest of this movie. Guys, in the end, there were things in Fan 4 Stick you could see the glimmer. You're like, oh, oh, that's where they're going. I guess not. The execution is not great. The script is not great. This is one of those movies that's potential, but there's a world of difference between potential and reality. It's boring as shit, and the last act is just laughable. The special effects, some scenes looked fine. Other scenes, I'm like, that looks like Sci-Fi Channel bullshit. Like, there's a scene where Reed Richards, I guess, can like make his face look different, and it's got this ability he has because he can stretch his skin. And he turns his face from one face into another face. It looked like something out of The Mummy. Like, it was terrible, but it was awesome in that sense where you're like, you guys really you just didn't give a shit. You just threw that at the screen. You're like, no one's gonna remember that. And they're right. You're not gonna remember Fan Four Stick in T-1 hour. Yep, gone and forgotten. But I will always remember the shitty CGI face turning into the other shitty CGI face. That's just there now. Okay, so Fan Four Stick, have you seen it? What, like, if you've seen it by now, you're a brave soul. You're one of those people like, I like people like you because you're like, nope, everyone says it sucks, but I need to see it for myself. God bless you, Patriot. But what did you think of it? Whatever you thought, comment below. Let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.